The UESS Valiant shuddered as another power cell failed, plunging Deck 7 into emergency lighting. Susan Chen wiped grease from her hands and swore under her breath. 3 days into the Joint Coalition mission, and the experimental fusion core was acting like a temperamental toddler. "This is unacceptable," clicked Evan, the Zalthari engineer assigned to work alongside her. His chitinous plates reflected the dim red emergency lights, making him look like some ancient earth beetle carved from obsidian. "My species perfected fusion technology 3,000 cycles ago. This should not happen." Susan bit back a retort. The Zalthari were brilliant engineers, methodical, precise, and utterly convinced of their superiority. Evan had made that clear from the moment they'd been paired together for this mission. "Yeah, well, this is a human Zalthari hybrid system," Susan said, crawling back under the console. "Which means neither of our species has figured out all the bugs yet. Hand me the plasma coupler." Evan's four-fingered hand extended the tool with obvious reluctance. Physical labor was beneath most Zalthari engineers. They preferred to work through drones and holograms. But the power outage had knocked out those systems too. 6 hours later, they'd managed to restore minimal power to essential systems, but life support was running at 30%. The ship's AI, speaking in a maddeningly calm voice, delivered the bad news. "Due to power conservation protocols, all personal quarters have been sealed. Crew members must utilize designated emergency rest stations until full power is restored." Susan groaned. The emergency rest station for Deck 7 was a glorified storage closet with a single thermal bed designed for crisis situations. "This is barbaric," Evan said, his translator struggling to convey his disgust as they stood in the doorway of the cramped space. "Galthari vessels have individual emergency pods for each crew member." "Yeah, well, human ships prioritize efficiency and survival over comfort," Susan said, tossing her tool bag into the corner. "We can share for one night. It's just sleep." Evan's antennae quivered his species equivalent of a grimace. "I require 17 degrees Celsius for optimal rest and complete silence. And the bed's thermal regulation is shot like everything else," Susan interrupted, checking the control panel. "It's stuck at 22 degrees. And buddy, you're going to have to deal with the fact that humans snore, shift around, and generally aren't carved from stone when we sleep." The temperature continued to drop as night cycle approached. Emergency protocols had diverted all available power to the bridge and medical bay. By the time they reluctantly settled onto opposite edges of the narrow bed, frost was forming on the walls. "Humans can't survive in these temperatures," Evan observed, his voice lacking its usual condescension. His species could enter a hibernation-like state that made them nearly impervious to cold. "We're more resilient than we look," Susan said through chattering teeth, curling into herself. She'd been through survival training in worse conditions. Probably. Maybe. An hour passed. Then 2. Susan's shivering had progressed from mild to violent, her body burning through calories to generate heat. She felt Evan shift beside her. "Your metabolic processes are incredibly inefficient," he said quietly. "Generating heat through muscular contractions. It's wasteful. Things. Iron Nain. Thanks for the observation," Susan managed between shivers. Another silence. Then, "I don't understand your species." The Zalthari reviewed human biology before the coalition formed. "You're fragile. You require constant chemical intake. Your bodies fail after mere decades. You can barely survive outside your narrow environmental parameters. And yet, Susan prompted, "and yet you're here. In space. Building ships that barely work. Using hybrid technologies you don't fully understand. Forcing your biology into environments it wasn't designed for. It's..." He paused, searching for words. "Illogical. Admirable. Terrifying." Susan huffed a laugh that came out as more of a wheeze. "That's humanity for you. Too stubborn to accept our limitations." She felt rather than saw Evan move closer. His body temperature was naturally lower than humans, but his chitinous form retained heat differently. Zalthari do not engage in physical comfort behaviors, he said carefully. But I have observed that humans use shared body heat for survival. This is logical. Under the circumstances, are you saying you want to cuddle, Evan? I am saying that allowing a crew member to expire from hypothermia would reflect poorly on my efficiency report. Despite everything, Susan smiled. Very logical. Evan's awkward attempt at sharing warmth was stiff and formal. He positioned himself like he was arranging cargo, but his body blocked the cold air, and gradually, Susan's shivering subsided. You know what the crazy thing is? Susan said into the darkness. Tomorrow we'll fix that fusion core. We'll figure it out together. Not because we're following some perfect Zalthari protocol or some reckless human instinct, but because we're both here, freezing our asses off, well, my ass, and we're too stubborn to give up. Evan's antennae twitched. This is the human quality the Coalition finds most useful, and most frustrating. What's that? You adapt. To anything. To everything. Zalthari spend centuries perfecting solutions. Humans simply improvise. Share beds with alien species. Build ships from incompatible technologies. Refuse to acknowledge when something should be impossible. Is that a compliment? It's an observation, though I am beginning to understand why the Coalition wanted human engineers on this project. Your species doesn't solve problems elegantly, but you solve them anyway. Then, AB, Apsis, by the time ship's morning arrived and emergency power was restored, they'd stabilized the fusion core using a solution that would have made both their species' academics shudder. A combination of Zalthari precision and human improvisation that shouldn't have worked, but somehow did. As they stood in engineering, reviewing the repairs, Evan's antennae quirked in what Susan had learned was amusement. What? She asked. I'm writing my report to the Zalthari High Council. I'm recommending that all future Coalition vessels include these emergency rest stations. Shared ones. 1 star. Any ones. Susan raised an eyebrow. Really? Yes. It appears that when humans are uncomfortable, they become remarkably motivated to fix things quickly. A useful engineering principle. Susan laughed, the first genuine laugh Evan had heard from a human. It was loud, inefficient, and served no apparent survival purpose. He decided he didn't entirely hate it.